This training series is brought to you by the Running Centre. Whether you're gearing up for Sydney, City to Surf, Melbourne, or the Perth Running Festival, the Running Centre is your destination for sports nutrition and all your running gear. Use code WARP15 at checkout to score 15% off all running gear and nutrition in-store or online. The Running Centre. Let's move together. This training series is brought to you by Bix Nutrition and the newly established Reach PB Sports, supporting the likes of Stuart McSwain, Matt Ramsden, Rose Davies, and trail superstar Philemon Kiriago. Bix products deliver the perfect balance of carbs, electrolytes, and micronutrients with a light, clean, natural taste, ideal for endurance training, racing, and recovery. Reach products give you what it takes to push beyond your reach, setting new benchmarks, breaking them over and over again, redefining and reinventing your limits with the essential nutrition you need to reach higher. Use code WARP for 20% off your next order of Bix and Reach products.
Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 003 of our Perth Running Festival training series entitled Road to Kwinana Freeway, recording live from the Running Centre Wednesday 1st of October. Before we get cracking, on behalf of Simon, Vicky and I, just want to say thank you to you guys for coming out here tonight. Obviously Raf and Sam for hosting us here at TRC. These guys obviously do a lot for us in the podcast, as does Vlad at Bix and Reach. So without them, these shows would not be possible. Last episode, we had a chance to talk with Denzel, Gould and Kat Watt about their training and goals for the marathon and half marathon respectively. Shane Johnstone joined us from Valetudo and shared some of his experience with strength and conditioning, in particular why Simon should start hitting the gym. But before we get started, I just want to let these guys have a quick chat and maybe talk about the community run that happened just earlier, and then generally like how the podcast is traveling over the course of the last few months, especially now that we've got some female representation in Vicky. So,
Well, hi everyone, and thanks everyone for being here. Didn't think we would venture too far from our respective 2x3 meter offices, recording on a Monday night to being where we are. So really appreciate you guys for being here tonight. I think, like I said earlier, thanks to Raf and Sam for hosting these Wednesday runs and allowing us to be part of it. And really excited to be at the pointy end of the Perth Running Festival and Melbourne Marathon. So, excited to hear from these guys in front of me around their final prep and, their current thinking as they're in the midst of Maranoia. Because I'm definitely in Maranoia at the moment, even though I'm telling people that I'm nice and relaxed and calm and collected, but I'm secretly fucking freaking out. So it would be good to hear from the wise words of Smithy to calm myself down in the lead up to... No? Okay. Shit. I'm in trouble. Really excited to hear from these guys, but also, very excited to have Vicky on board, part of the crew. She's been buggering us for the last... I haven't been buggering 10 months, and finally she's part of the team, and she's going to realise how much of an administrative burden this podcast life is. So thank you for joining us officially as well.
Thank you. Is this working?
Yeah.
It's not doing anything, but thank you for having me. I have actually been pestering them, not buggering them, for nearly a year now, ever since they invited me on as a guest. Little did they know that I was never going to go away. So I am very excited to have a permanent seat until they kick me out. And I feel like this is awesome. I can't believe we've got a live audience. And
pretty scary, yeah.
It's not scary. It's great. I said to them earlier in the week, this is our first live show. Next stop, Sydney Opera House. I have big aspirations for this podcast. So I'm hoping I'll be able to give my day job soon and just be a full-time podcast host. So yeah. But yeah, great to be here. Great to have these guys who are incredible, and we're super excited to hear how their training's been going, and super excited to hear from Raf as well. And learn from his wisdom. I'm very glad that I'm not running a marathon in a week and a half. So please, nobody try and offer me a spot, because I'm not taking it. But yeah, excited to get started.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. All right. Well, I'll let you guys get seated. And then, we'll get stuck into the training weeks here, or the introductions at the very least. Now, as the guys said, we've got 11 days to go until the Perth Running Festival, and many people out there, including the athletes, might be suffering from a bit of marathon madness, or maranoia, as the great Matt Maguire calls it. Obviously, we're going to be joined by Raf later, but for now, I'm just going to introduce these 4 athletes. You probably know all these faces. The bloke next to me is under close watch from ASIO, has been cancelled from numerous media outlets already. Naturally, we figured this podcast would be the perfect place to give him a platform. Matt Smith, welcome.
Hi. I think it's here and Fox News are the only 2 places I'm allowed left.
Yeah, definitely some right wing stuff going on. No, look. We're a week and a bit out from the race, mate. Have you got a ticket yet?
No. I left that one to Sam Maxwell, and he's now magically gone on holiday. And I've had a couple of other Sydney siders that can't come across that have offered me to sell me their ticket, and they've gone MIA. So anyone has a ticket, I'm sure I'll find it. I'm not stressed.
Yeah, they'll be all over the ground somewhere. Maybe on the Kwinana Freeway. Speaking of Kwinana Freeway, when I asked you in the questionnaire what your preference was between Kwinana Freeway or Mitchell Freeway, you told me the Tonkin PSP is the place to be. Why is that?
I grew up in the Vines. So during COVID, you obviously weren't supposed to go very far from where you lived, and the Tonkin PSP was exactly 3K jog from my house. So
very good.
Yeah, I'd sneak out there and do for 2 years. Practically did all my running on the Tonkin PSP. Some pretty bad memories down that path.
Yeah, well, there's no toilets down the PSP, so hopefully...
Plenty of bush.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, lucky. So I often find myself trying to decipher your Strava activities, and something I saw last week was Zaza levels are high. Can you explain that to us?
I wish I could. I have no idea what's going on in the brain department there. I think it comes from Dan Canala, who trains in our group, and we started calling him Zaddy Zaniel, which sort of turned into Zaza, which just turned into a good word for like vibe checks. So nice. Guys will be running past at the track, I'll hit them with a Zaza. Zaza levels are high generally. Probably means that we're having a good day.
Yeah, nice. Awesome, mate. Well, no, thanks for joining us as usual. And next we've got... someone I managed to share 1.5 kilometres with on Sunday morning along the river there. Everyone's favourite pacer, Kat Watt, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So, yeah, we've got you from overseas. You've managed to come over from Honolulu. How is it being back home?
It's been amazing. First run back, I think I went out at about 10:30 a.m. and I was shivering. So it was a great change from being in Hawaii. I managed to catch up with a few friends on Sunday for a long run. I joined the last kilometre with you, Chris, and you kindly said on the podcast that I shouted at you to stop talking. So
yeah.
We did get about half a kilometre of a bit of a chat, and then it was shush, we're running a 4-minute case. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no,
no
messing around. No, great to have you. I've seen you're back in Kwinana and you've been poaching some crowns. How does that make you feel?
Oh, it's fantastic. So I couldn't wait. As soon as I landed, I was like, I need to go get those crowns back. So if anyone knows, I am the Queen of Kwinana. I've lived there for quite a long time. I'm a proud Kwinana girl, so don't go stealing my crowns or I'll have to come back from Hawaii and steal them right back again.
She will fly over for them. Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Kat. Now, the next fella, some people call him Boy Wonder, the pride of Geraldton, Smithy's grandson. Not a fast twitch fibre in his body. Denzel Gould, thanks for coming in, mate.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Keen to have a chat.
No, thanks very much for coming. So, look, back up in Geraldton last week. Were you trying to get in some wind resistance training before the race?
It was probably a bit more heat, to be honest. It's not a lot of shade up that way, but it wasn't too bad wind-wise, actually, which is a bit of a change. So
yeah, nice. Well, every time I've been up there, it's absolutely blowing a gale. Now, you mentioned to us that you prefer truckloads of pasta and 2 Maximus a day. Have you tried 7 bagels and 4 Maximus? And are we going to see a detailed breakdown of your carb load ahead of the race?
Yeah, I can if you would like. I don't know if there's an eating function on the Garmin or not, but I can start them. Yeah, Maximus are my go-to. So I mow lawns for work, so I go through 1 a day at least. So got to double it at least.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I'd give you a tip. If you dip a couple of scoops of Bix in there, it just takes it to that next level.
I'll have to try that.
Good stuff, mate. And finally here with us, we have someone who is brutally honest, which I really appreciate. Last time we spoke, we talked about nutrition. It was rice, chicken, and a single piece of broccoli, I think, was what was on the menu. Brutal honesty to give Smithy a run for his money. Nita Traeger, how are you going?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me, please.
No, wonderful to have you, Nita. Speaking of honesty, your first interaction with the WA Running Podcast Instagram was to tell us that the community run was too fast. How did tonight go, and have we redeemed ourselves?
Simon, still got PTSD. So this is my second run club with TRC, and then I don't know, probably the last one.
Brutal honesty. What did I say?
I came a few months ago. It was 6 a.m. one with the testing shoes, and it was winter. And I was like, okay, they say it's a slow jog, it's a fun run. It's like, okay. 5:30, and I was like, okay. And it's 5-minute pace. I was like, this is not a fun run. And then the next minute, I swear to God, I was the last one. And then I was lost.
You gotta come to double. We do 6-minute runs.
And then Raf found me, and then we do a little bit detour and a little bit talk. And then I did write a letter compliment.
Yes.
Complain. And I say, whoever run this run club is a false advertising. It's not a fun run. I'm telling you, it's not a fun run. And then here I am again. But it's an amazing one.
Fingers crossed we can get it right next time. 3rd time's a charm. Now, I've noticed on your Strava, you've resorted to Simon's coding mechanism, which in your case is SGMW7R29 for the run you did the other day.
First of all, it was Simon copy me.
Oh, here we go. Yeah. He just said bullshit. Does this drive you crazy, like renaming your runs, or is it as satisfying as stacking up dominoes and then watching them all fall?
Bit of both. But it was actually struggling because every time I put it, so run is like how many runs I'm doing it. And sometimes I run week 7 obviously, and then run 28. And I was like, oh no, yesterday was run 28. So I have to come back and delete it again and run 29.
Oh my goodness.
But rather than writing all album of every single music that I listen, so I'm just writing that as a code. So yeah.
Very good, very good.
Yeah.
No, I've seen it. It's getting worse and worse, and it's not just. I'm a morning run fan, so hopefully, people can follow me instead of doing that stuff. But anyhow, let's get into training weeks. Like, we're firmly in taper territory now. Just 11 days to go. If you're anything like me, you're checking the weather constantly. Suddenly, your feet start hurting for no apparent reason, and you're giving yourself a number of reasons why you shouldn't put yourself on the line on race day. You might be formulating mental strategies to cope with the self-doubt and tough moments of your races. Everyone here would love to hear about how your body and mind are feeling. Nita, we'll start with you, seeing as you've got the mic right now. You're a bloody tough cookie. I saw a video of you benching more than I ever have the other day. Consistency seems to be your strength. What motivates you to get out every day of the week?
I just want to beat my friend. But every time I run often, then I lost on the lifting. So my PB so far for deadlift was 100 kilos for 3 reps. But then when I go back to...
Can we applaud that just for the
But then when I go back to more run again, 95 seems like 1,000 kilos. So we stick to 92.5 at the moment. I think it's helped for me, like with the strength training to the gym and stuff. It's just making it like, I feel like a bit lighter when it comes to run. although probably crap, but it does help a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're stronger. Obviously, it's working. Now, I've noticed Coach Claire is your coach, correct?
Yes.
She's ever present on your Strava,
Yep.
providing constant advice and words of encouragement.
She's commented before when I changed my title.
Yeah, she's ahead of you
Yeah.
in terms of the naming convention, obviously. Have you had a chance to chat with her ahead of next week?
Yeah.
In terms of a race plan?
I was actually planning to talk to her because I've only seen my program. I thought it would be just a normal running for next week, and I just realized she changed the strategy. I didn't really read it, and I'm like, well, we need to discuss. So yeah.
What stood out to you as surprising in terms of those changes? Was it something you didn't want to do?
Definitely the last 5 kilometers that I don't feel like I'm gonna do it. So I thought I'm just gonna do like a flat, whatever pace I'm gonna do. But apparently I have to do certain kilometers easy, and then we go hard, easy until 21 kilometers. So that's gonna be a bit tricky for me.
Yeah, right.
And I've never done that before.
So this is the race day plan, correct?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And I've only seen it this morning.
Yeah, wow. And
me.
so you're treating it as a workout, obviously, for Singapore Marathon, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, last year you ran the marathon at Perth Running Festival.
I did.
There were a few tiers.
Lots of tears.
Yeah, lots of tiers. Hopefully we see tears of joy this year, and when you cross the finish line, instead of tears of sadness
Hopefully.
or despair. What are you hoping to, like, is there a particular pace or time you're hoping to get out of this race in order to your prep for Singapore?
For this time, I'll just hope. So like I say, I'm a very slow runner, not like you guys. So my PB randomly, when I did training with my friend, for the half, it was just 1:55 something. All I want is just 1:55.01 second. That's all I want. But if it's not, it's all good.
Yeah.
Probably just cry again. That's it.
Yeah. Very good. Well, fingers crossed, Nita, that is the case, and you get that 1:55.01.
Do you want to be my pacer cat?
Well, seeing as you've just asked Kat a question, we'll jump to Kat quickly. Now, you've come from low 30s and high humidity back to Perth. You were saying earlier it's nice and cold here. Does it feel like you've been on an 18-month training camp and suddenly you're about to go Super Saiyan?
It's funny you say that because it does feel easier. Like my heart rate is so much lower here, but my legs aren't going any faster. So I don't know. I know Raf definitely believes in like train in hot conditions and go and race in cool conditions, but we'll see if that comes true next weekend.
Maybe a taper and
Potentially.
and a few wines might make that better for next week.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Now, are you happy with how the block is going for New York? Like last time we were talking, you were building up really nicely, and it looks like that's continued. Will you taper into this race on Sunday?
No, I won't taper. I'll have about a 5-day taper. So this week will be quite a big week. I've been doing about 110, maybe 115K a week. So this week will be about 120. And then I'll have a normal Monday and Tuesday, and then I'll kind of 5 days into PRF.
Yeah, awesome. Now, I guess, have you heard any rumours, or like you're pretty well connected in the Perth running community? Have you heard any rumours of who's running the half marathon yet?
I actually met a girl that might be in the audience that's probably going to put me to the sword. I think her name's Beck. I don't know if she's still here, but she did the community run. She told me she's doing the half marathon, and from my stalking, I know she's a pretty handy runner. So I reckon that's at least one ahead of me, but I dare say there's at least 5 or 6 more.
Yeah, for sure. I guess that's impressive that you've already checked her up on Strava after you just met her in the community run. But I guess the other thing I wanted to ask you is, you enjoy racing, obviously. What kinds of things are you telling yourself leading into a race week to prepare yourself for that kind of competition?
It's a good question. I do plan to race PRF, so I'm not doing it as a workout, or maybe I'll say it's a workout if it doesn't go to plan. If you see that on my Strava, you know that I'm lying because you heard it here. It depends. I think with this race, it's more about me and it's more about my pacing. Like I just want to run a certain time that will indicate that I can run a sub 3 at New York. So there has been other races where I go into it and, I might be in a bit better shape than I am right now and I want to be at the pointy end of the field and that would change my game plan whatsoever. So, but this time it's just all about the time. So, but I can get pretty competitive towards the end of the race. So if I see somebody slowing, I might, have a go and try and beat them. So,
Do you like to say a few words as you run past somebody?
I say nothing, and I breathe really, really nicely, not heavily, just to make sure that they think that I'm not cooked.
Yeah, fake it till you make it. No, that's great. No, thanks, Kat. I'm going to ask Denzel a few questions now. So, mate, you were talking to us last time about your juggle with work and study. And running and, having a few up and down weeks there. How have these final few weeks been and how have they panned out for you?
Yeah, they've been going all right. Last week I was going to do a 3-week taper, but I ended up doing about 70 Ks, but I wanted it to be a little bit more. I had a pretty big report due, so I just had to skip. Sometimes you can't do anything about it. And running isn't my main priority. So, did 70 Ks last week and I'll just sort of lower it the next few weeks, but been chatting to coach and he reckons I'm doing all right. So
yeah, cool. I didn't know you had a coach.
Oh yeah, it's me.
Very good. No, that's awesome. So yeah, I think I saw that you did a pretty solid long run actually on Sunday just gone. I think it was 20 Ks at marathon effort. And I think that's a really important distinction, like marathon pace versus marathon effort. Where does the effort sit for you at the moment, and where is it where you wanted it to be when you first started chatting to us on the podcast?
I think marathon effort's something that I've only just recently gotten into, probably this block. I did a run earlier in the block trying to go at marathon pace, and it was just too much, and I knew it was. So I've just tried to focus on dialing it back a little bit. I've been averaging, I think about 4:10s or 4:11s was like the 20K block I did over the weekend, and that's roughly 10 seconds slower. So yeah, I think it's just to help me recover a little bit better as well. Whether or not I can run quicker on the day or not, but it's good science. Like my marathon effort's quicker than what my last marathon pace was, so that's a good sign, I guess.
No, absolutely, and as a young bloke who coaches himself, I think it's quite admirable to acknowledge the difference between the two, because people often, ego gets in the way. We were talking about that earlier, Raf. So that's really impressive, mate. Now, you obviously you are your own coach. Do you bounce ideas off of anybody to help you with like a race plan? Like, does Dad help you out, or have you got a couple of mates who egg you on?
No, all my mates think I'm crazy, so they don't want anything to do with it. I sort of coach Dad a little bit, so he's always asking me for ideas. So it's just purely coming from the dome.
Yeah, no,
so
very good. And is there anything like? There's obviously tough moments throughout a race, especially in a marathon. Like, how do you cope with those things? Like, what have you experienced? You've done 6 marathons now?
4 or 5 or something like that.
Yeah. So as you're 21 barely. How do you cope with the tough stuff when you hit those points?
I think I'm honestly just learning every marathon. I'm learning something new. I think something big for me is trying to find someone to just run with. Was probably a big thing I learned at Bibra Lake. I don't know whether or not I'm going to see anyone out on PRF because the freeways can get pretty lonely. So, but yeah, I don't know. It's just something I seem to learn something new every race. Towards the end, I always try, in those last 3Ks, just last 3 or 4Ks, just dedicate 1K to 1 month of training, for example. So just stuff like that, just to try and get you through.
Magic, mate. No, thanks very much, Denzel. Pretty wise stuff to start off with there. And now finally, we're going to go off the rails here. So we've got Smithy. Now, since we last spoke, I think you've averaged over 160 Ks a week over the last month. You've edged close to 170 Ks, emphasis on edging. How has the body adapted solely to running with minimal time on the bike?
There was a 170k week in there. I've been sore. I'm not gonna lie. Because I'm a dual athlete by trade. To everyone in the crowd, and I retired. I think it was 12 weeks ago exactly. So, I've only really done like a 6-week block for this marathon, and I like to use the analogy. I'm in the oven and it's hot. So I'm looking forward to coming out of the oven this week. But yeah, like I've had a really good block. I've only missed one run, and 30 minutes off the end of a long run with like a slightly sore quad. But apart from that, I've hit every session pretty much 10 out of 10. Even like my gut training with gels and stuff has been going really well. And I've really enjoyed it, that's probably the main thing. Like my coach Ramsden, yesterday I was jogging with him. He's like, "Geez, Smithy, I bet you're looking forward to coming out of the oven." I was like, "Actually, I've really enjoyed it. Like I'm having a lot of fun doing this." And it's nice getting up in the morning and going, "Hey, I can go for like a 45-minute jog instead of a 4-hour bike ride." Yeah. I've had a lot of fun, and it's been really good. And I think it also takes a bit of pressure off race day. Like if I have a stinker, I've learnt a lot and it's been fun.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Okay, so then how has it compared to, say, last year's prep for PRF?
Much better in terms of the way that like I've done better sessions, more specific sessions, because last year I was still trying to juggle it with the cycling. Last year was also quite a short prep because I'd had a pretty bad winter, and we're like, hey, let's just do a heap of races and eventually something will stick. But yeah, this year's training's been a lot more specific, and I've seen huge improvements across. Like I've already run a 1500 PB in training, mile PB in training, 1k PB in training, 800 meter PB in training. Now I just need to run a marathon PB, not in training. So yeah, like things have gone really well, and I'm pretty happy with where the body and the mind is at.
Yeah. Just a 42.2 kilometer rep. That's all it is.
Exactly that.
Now, I've noticed a lot of your long runs, whether they be your midweek long runs or your weekend long runs, are on the trails on the Heritage Loop or out at Helena Valley. How important are these group runs to you, or all the solo ones that you do?
So I've been doing Thursday Helena Valley Loop by myself. I like doing that one by myself because normally I train pretty hard Tuesday on the track or the grass track, but it's still a hard session. And then Wednesday's an easier running day, but it's heavy lift day at the gym. So by the time I get to Thursday, I'm pretty beat up. So I've enjoyed going out to the hills by myself and just running really slow, making some sort of make-believe friends to keep me company along the way, visit some weird places. But then on Sundays, like I'm with Rams, and Matt Rams is my coach, going out to Helena Valley with the group. That's my favourite run of the week because the amount of shit we talk over the space of 2.5 hours it makes it fly by. And obviously, just being in the trails with nature, it's so much better than doing like 30k around the river, which I did this Sunday and it sucked. But yeah, I'm very lucky that I get to train with my best mates, and there's never a dull moment out in the trails. Some weird things. I've seen some things, guys. Things you don't want to see.
Hopefully not Deliverance-esque things, but no, that's cool, mate. Are you doing any marathon-specific sessions, or are you? I notice you do a lot of threshold work.
Yep.
If you're not doing any marathon-specific stuff, like how do you formulate what marathon effort is?
See, these are the things I'm still learning, because I'm really setting myself up for a strong track season. In my head, like this marathon is just going to be like a bonus training block, and I want to make sure that I'm good to go sort of come December for track season, because I've never done one properly. I have done Mara specific stuff. Like the biggest session I've done was 2x10k, and Matty Ramsden might have told Raf that I'd run sub 30 for both the efforts. Might have been some Swiss cheese on that one. But I still had a really strong session. And for me, the biggest thing is like the gut training, because I have a tendency to shit myself.
Don't we all? Yeah.
So it's like being able to sort of run at that like closer to LT2 pace and put away 3 big 40 Bix gels in an hour and not poo myself has sort of been like that. That's the thing that I'm going to go into the race feeling most confidence about, with the most confidence for. Is that I'm going to run past Royal Perth Golf Course and not shit myself there this year.
Yeah, it's a perfect advertisement for Bix, isn't it? Just you won't shit yourself.
Bix Big 40 gels, they work a treat.
Yeah, no, fantastic. All right, well, I'll ask you one more question before we get into Raf. Like, has Rambo, you've obviously been talking to him on these long runs. Has he whispered any secrets in your ear about what he's expecting for you on race day?
Yeah, he has. Yeah, he thinks I can probably run a bit faster than what I can run, but as I'm now a runner, I'm just sort of reflecting on the last 5 years of me sort of still doing running races. Every time he's sort of told me I've gone out and I've actually done it. And like I'm not gonna. I understand I'm still relatively new to this marathon thing. I've only done 2.5. So if I run the time he's told me he thinks I can run, I'll be bloody stoked. But like also I think I sort of know where I am, and I'll still run a massive PB. So personally, I'm thinking 2:18. He's thinking a little bit quicker. But at the end of the day, if I run anything under 2:22.22, which is my current PB, I'll be a very happy chappy. But yeah, like the self-confidence is there, and I'll probably go out and give it a red-hot crack. And yeah, hopefully less naps on the side of the freeway this year.
Oh, fantastic, mate. No, thanks for being honest and sharing with us. Could you just give these guys a round of applause for sharing their training tonight? It takes a lot of guts to sit up there and actually talk times and stuff. Now, before we started this training series, obviously we partnered with the Running Centre for the Gold Coast Marathon Series, and we wanted to take a slightly different approach this time around. And there was actually a suggestion from Raf to cover some of the more technical sides of training, or that support your training, and that kind of got us started on this one. So on past episodes, we've talked to Gabby Veer, talking through nutrition, not just race day stuff, but actually supporting your training adequately. And when we spoke to Shane Johnstone, and he was talking all about why Simon should get in the gym, and it's not just about having nice muscles. Now, it seemed only fitting that the person to round us out for this series would be Raf, to talk through mindset, or as he might call it, performance coaching. Now, an astounding athlete in his own right, but he's also coached some of the state's finest junior and senior athletes to across the roads, track, and in multi-sport events to state national titles and international representation. Could you all please put your hands together for Raf Baugh, please?
Thanks for having me, mate. Thanks for having me.
No, very, very happy to have you here, mate. Very much looking forward to your insight into what Simon calls mindset training. If we start with that, what would the term mindset mean to you?
Well, because whenever people suffer, like for me, I hate public speaking, believe it or not, unless I'm talking about who I'm watching. But if someone... Mindset training for me is if someone were to imagine the best version of themselves, and there was, say, 3 characteristics that you wished to represent when you were suffering, that would be the mental training we would try to develop in our athletes. So for some people, that'll be very different. For some people, that might be bravery. For some people, that might be resilience. But it's a very individual thing, and even with athletes, I try to get them to complete that task, but I get them to do it privately first. Because when they're suffering, most people, it's a very personal thing, and it's an important thing for transformation is to go through difficult things. So I try to allow them the space to find those 3 anchor words, and then if they want to share, then I'll use those anchor words with those athletes. But I also pick the athletes now as a coach that I work with, that I really have that fundamental respect for the character I already see with them. But I think for me, it starts with that, because as a coach, you're really dependent on the quality of the character of the person you're working with. And I find there's a lot of people I coach who maybe aren't necessarily super fast, but I have a huge amount of respect for, and people who are fast who I don't yet respect as much. And so for me, it's more at the human level. Before coaching, I was a physio. The people that get better, when they come in and trust you, there's a certain amount of trust when they come into you as a practitioner that is a precursor to them having a successful rehabilitation. And if you don't have that faith and trust up front from the client, then now after all these years I can sort of predict that calamity will ensue, and no matter what I do, a person who hasn't yet got awareness of their own patterns and compulsions will make you look silly no matter what you do, and a person who's of good character will make you look great no matter what you do. So pick great people to be around.
Yeah, so if you were to pick a handful of qualities that you look for in an athlete then that would be able to execute a marathon well, what would they be?
Well, so I think it's really important that it's very contextual. So for the marathon, it would be very different to a 1500 or a 5K or a 10K. But for that, from my experience, and it's predictable to some extent, it would be a self-motivated introvert who is attracted to self-mastery rather than an outcome, and they're trying to be the best version of themselves. They're not really too caught up in comparison. They tend to be the most fun to coach and the least trouble coaching because they're focused on being the best version of themselves. So they don't talk about other people, they don't gossip, so they're fun to work with as well.
Yeah, amazing. So we are 11 days out from the race now, whether it be Perth, Melbourne or Chicago. How do you guide your athletes to coping with this dreaded maranoia over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, so everything you do for someone is something they can't do for themselves. So the first thing we always do is I send them a planning document and get them to write their intensity, their heart rate, their fueling, and their anchor, if they want to share their anchor or mindset goals. So they have to complete that themselves. Most of the time now, they're pretty accurate. Sometimes you have to look at it and correct it, but that gets them into the logical frame of mind before the emotions get too high. So about 2 weeks out, I'll get them to plan it out. And then if they start to lean in on me too much, I can always ask them to reference back to the objective, logical part of their brain. Because otherwise, as a coach, as some other people here with coaches will know, the last week before a race, it can become quite taxing as a coach because as people get anxious, they start to become more binary and stressed, and they transfer that because they can't manage it. And again, you've only got so much energy that you can manage. And then at the final level, I suppose, you're also, as a coach, watching things that they can't control, like the weather and the climate, because that, having a degree in science, I'll understand that if it's hot, they're going to vasodilate, they're going to have a lower VO2 max, they're going to have a reduction in performance. So no matter, my rational brain will be forming a variable analysis on the situation that they can't control and trying to, how do I get this person to reframe their expectations in a way that doesn't shock them? And so the best way normally is to collectively, from my experience, educate people at an arm's length and then individually check in with them if there needs to be an adjustment or a factoring of circumstances outside their control that will have a direct impact on what's a good performance. Because, as a professional athlete myself, because I was good but not great in terms of talent, on the wet or the windy or the crappiest days, I could guarantee I was going to get the best paycheck. Because a lot of the best athletes on a day like that, when it's a bit an external and it's not good conditions, they're going to have a bad day. So I would always know on the worst day I'm going to get the biggest paycheck, and I would love those days because I wasn't good enough to dominate every day, but those days it was my best chance to make more pay dirt. So success looks different depending on the context, and so you have to try to educate people on context as well, so that they frame a great race. For Yuki Kawauchi in the Boston Marathon, when he won it, he won the race, and it was horrific weather, and he was the most adaptable athlete. It was a good reward for him, and success really starts with being able to be coachable and reframe and be adaptable, and that's exactly what the marathon asks of the athlete. So you try to sort of consistently try to give them objective counsel as they become more subjective and more anxious.
Yeah, I mean the Yuki reference is a good one, and something I watch those replays often because the commentators are making fun of him, saying this guy's just looking for airtime. And as the race wears on, if anyone hasn't seen it, they should definitely look it up. They're like, this guy's actually going to do it. It's quite incredible.
And I thought in the first Sydney Marathon, I thought Dean was going to I started to watch I saw Dean catching in the really hot weather, catching Brett Robinson. I thought, he's going to get his moment here because he's going to go from no one knowing him to everyone knowing him, but didn't quite get there. But he ran really well on the weather and beat a lot of good people and had a really good day. And a good day on that day, people will look at it and say he ran 2:23. You know the context, whether people looking at it know it or not. And ultimately it is about becoming the best version of yourself. So, I think you have to really be able to frame success from your own best self. Yeah. I think that's how I see it now.
Yeah, I think I heard Dean talking about it the other day, actually, that he might have considered that his best race performance based on those conditions and, what it took to produce that performance on the day. Now, I think most people here already appreciate the importance of good carb load, right? So how important is it to get your mental state right ahead of race day?
I think self-organisation in terms of thoughts is a human challenge now with so much input coming at people. So I think the way I sort of look at it with the marathon is a self-motivated introvert who's very driven and very disciplined. And, I've coached almost, I think it's 150 sub-3 hour marathon runners and over 66% are engineers and accountants. So a guy who can look at a spreadsheet and look at the variables and then see what spits out is the bread and butter of who I work with. And these people look at things very logically. And so eventually, when it comes to how they deal with situations, if they're a self-motivated introvert, when they're going through the struggles of life, they deal with it internally. So when the marathon gives them that struggle, they've always dealt with challenges internally. When someone's more extrovert and when they start to have difficulty, needs to constantly reach out to people, the marathon doesn't afford you that luxury. You're on your own. And so for me, that always as a runner, I was an ego-driven young guy who'd come from team sports and was beating my chest. But I always liked the marathon guys because they were more grounded. So I've naturally gravitated to coaching those sorts of people, and I've learned a lot about their nature. I really respect a lot of them because when it gets tough, you'll see a person who can appear quite meek or quite gentle who can become really tough, and someone who barks and barks who becomes the opposite. And so you have to trust everyone to be themselves and trust that you can see them well. And I just like watching people and trying to get a gauge. And as I've coached for longer, the right people will sense that I'm the right person for them, and the wrong people, thankfully, we allow them to find the person who's right for them as well. But you have to know yourself first, and a lot of people still have to learn that. Like when I hear Denzel talk, I think the way he sees things, I like the way he perceives it. He's aware. It looks like he's going to be continuing to progress for a while to come. He's aware of what's happening in himself and how he might approach it for the best way for himself. Yeah.
Well, don't let your head get too big, Denzel. All right. So I think Smithy calls it having a nap. Some people might call it brain fog, but you get to the late stages of a marathon and being able to pack away, your own thoughts or the negative stuff becomes increasingly difficult. In your experience, how does fatigue affect the mental and physical state in the late stages of a marathon?
Well, so those anchor words we talked about are sort of what I would get people to go back to. But I think sometimes we think that life would, especially when we're young, avail us of no suffering. I think as we get older, we realise it's about how well can we manage challenges. And so I think seeing it and embracing it as an opportunity to find that those anchoring words, the best versions of yourself, makes you being able to find most challenges of life much easier. So it's about embracing the fact that it's super difficult and saying, okay, how can I best manage genuinely difficult situations, not how can I resist it? And probably that's a good word, resistance, because it's accepting it. It is, some things will happen that you don't want to happen. How do you navigate it? How logical are you when things are really tough? And trying to find a better version of yourself, which why I always would say that's why you need those three anchor words, because the best version of you is you define that. Nobody else can tell you who that is or what that is. So if you know who the version of yourself you want to be is, that's the time to show it. And so I'm probably a little bit challenging to some people. It's probably too blunt, But to the right person, I already believe in them enough to be able to hit them between the eyes with that. And if they haven't been able to do it, we both sort of know. And if they have, there's a genuine respect. Like sometimes with coaching people, sometimes people will do things where it's genuinely quite moving. Like you're like moved by success some people are able, or the growth people are certainly able to have, not just at the level of a performance, but at the level of their own character and their own self-confidence as a person, as a human. So, yeah, that's sort of how I would frame it, is how can you bring forth the best version of yourself when things are difficult?
I noticed that, you know, your athletes use a lot of marathon-specific training, but this approach is not used universally, so it's not everybody's bag. But I guess, how do you see that this benefits the mental side of marathon training?
Yeah. So, yeah, each person is different. So this, you know, it's so much of it is dependent on how much of people's time they can commit to running. So if you were to imagine if someone's, you know, only able to run 4 times a week, they're probably not fit enough to really run the distance. They're going to walk, jog, or there's a certain point where specific training becomes more appropriate for someone like at Matt's level, where, you know, someone like Dean might run a marathon at 95.5% of his anaerobic threshold. So he's running at a very high heart rate, at 85 to 86% of his maximum heart rate. So his long runs are generally a lot slower than that. Someone who's running 4 times a week, their long runs, what you see is not even ready for the marathon yet. They're on a march to finish the marathon. So that person, the advice is very different. They don't do specificity is every day. And when someone who's running 4 or 5 times a week says a taper won't make any difference, because the training load that they're under is showing them the potential they have every day. A person who's training twice a day, 6 days a week, they're under a veil of fatigue that, when it's removed, reveals a higher potential. So each athlete's somewhere on that continuum. You need to know where they are on that continuum, and the amount of specificity for an elite athlete is going to be much higher than someone who's essentially raced. Every time you get a lot of people who are building up to do a long run, that 2.5 hour run, it's highly specific because they can just get to 2.5 hours, right? And they're going to run a marathon in 4.5. So for them, specificity is every Sunday in that long run. So it depends. But for, say, someone who's an elite athlete, because I think, is that sort of where you're sort of thinking more framing-wise?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Someone trying to run under 3 hours, for example.
Yeah. So it just, for that particular athlete, training at that intensity is not always possible on a weekly or regular basis. So we need to expose them to that, because we touched on the subjectivity of people's experience as they're moving towards a difficult challenge. They start to become really evangelical about what they can and can't do. So we spoke to a sports psychologist, we've been doing this for so long I can't remember. It was over a decade ago. And I told him about this, and he goes, well, it sounds like the military, where you have to simulate what they're going to do. Otherwise, they can't be hoping to know, or they can't go to war worried about it. They have to go to war feeling prepared for it, which I liked. And then I went to Kenya and met a guy called Renato Canova, who taught me a bit more about what he was thinking and he was doing with really elite athletes. And so we came back and started a sort of a middle position, which we were probably the first people in Australia to do it, with, say, Rochelle running 2:34 from a kid from Thornley with a 17-minute, couldn't even break 17 minutes for 5K to run 2:34. It's a good conversion. So we had some good success. Nira ran 2:36. Nick Harmon, a shame he's not still running, ran 2:14. 2 of the guys have run 2:17. So they're good runners off guys who are working full time, essentially. Rochelle was working, Nira was working. For amateur athletes, that's world class. If I had started coaching them as a kid and got their VO2 max up, because you can't increase the VO2 max of a trained adult. If Smithy's time for 5K, the only way he's going to get quicker is if his economy allows him to at 5K. It's not from VO2 max, it's from economy. So that's why I like coaching the kids now. If I can get a higher ceiling and convert it, which you know how to convert it, you just got to get the ceiling, then will be exciting to watch the next few years, because it's going to be good to watch. But you have to understand all the variables, I suppose. I've been watching human performance with the training in human biology for so many years that I'm looking at it probably differently to most people, and then observing it in a way which is sort of like curious and trying to better understand what I'm seeing, and a lot of it's sort of hypothetical. So I like chatting with Dick Telford, or people that are more science-based who have seen it as well and who are thinking in the same sort of way as I look at it. It's not the same as how everyone looks at it. Everyone looks at it from the perspective that they have. Yeah, if that makes sense.
No, for sure. Now, it is no secret that you love a rev up. Now, on a marathon course. Now, at Gold Coast, you shared some words with me at 41 kilometres that I can confidently say changed the outcome of my race at a point where I had kind of accepted a fate and given up on a dream. But whatever you said to me switched my brain back on. How do you know how to say exactly the right thing at exactly the right time?
I don't want to claim any credit for that, mate. That's a bit very generous, but I don't think it's accurate. Look, I've had some athletes who really, the extrovert person who you can tell the internal voice is becoming negative, you need to try to... I don't want to give away too many secrets, but when I know people well, I don't know them as well as they know themselves, but sometimes parts of them you might know what to do. So say someone like, say, Dean, he, as a health professional, he is willing, as quite a affable, normal guy, when it's in a marathon, he's willing to go to a place where I don't feel comfortable watching, right, because he'll rinse himself. Mm-hmm. And I feel a bit like I might transmit, he's completely able to do that. My energy is actually of detriment to him at that point. Mm-hmm. Some people also I've coached, I can tell the internal dialogue is very negative and they need an external voice to plug a gap or try to disrupt the circuit of thinking, because people think, people behave and think in very compulsive patterns, consciously or subconsciously. You can see it if you watch. And so you can disrupt it when you need to, or you can do nothing when you don't. And a lot of the time with really good people, after a while, sometimes I think they're good. I don't need to do anything, just cheer. And for some people, maybe at a moment they need something, but a lot of the time they don't need a lot. If they really got good nature and good character, I think sometimes as a coach you want to do something because you're like, what do I do here? But if they're really well trained and you've built them up, everything they need they've already got. And so you're almost just like a servant. If you don't need to do anything, I just sort of sit back and enjoy watching. And if I need to do something, I'll sense that it's apt and I'll do something. But it's very selective now. And with you, I thought you looked strong, so I think I probably just said, hey, mate, you look strong. Maybe you didn't feel strong. But running is a funny thing. Like when you're running, when I was running, I felt like I was so flat out. But when you're watching, as a perceiver of the effort, it looks much less, and much less, like it looks different to how it's perceived. Yeah. And I can respect that because I've been on both sides. But yeah, so you can see where people might be getting a little bit tight and just try to help them loosen up a little.
Yeah, no, great answers, mate. That concludes my questioning, Raf. So did you guys have any questions directly to Raf? Otherwise, we'll pass it to the audience. All right. No one? All right, cool. Well, this microphone here has a very long lead, so if anyone would like to ask a question, I would be very grateful of them to do so. Vicky's grabbing the microphone, ready to pass it to someone. We've got Jackson Lemon here, a star of the Bunbury training series back in April. How are you, mate?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Thanks for TRC for doing this. Just a quick question for the Wonder Boy. You mentioned like tonight, and then as I was listening to episode 2 on the way up here, like you mentioned a couple of times how like running isn't your main goal, and like someone who's been to uni myself, you know, like it takes up a lot of time and like it's a big investment. Do you think not having running as your like big focus has kind of helped your performance and taken a bit of like the pressure away from it? Just kind of asking that as coming from someone who makes running their kind of whole identity and really, really invest in it. How has it not being your number one priority helped you?
Sorry, Jackson. If you want to check that mic is on for me. It is on? Okay, cool. Very good. All right, no, that's fine. Do you want to just give me a quick check in there?
Check.
It is a little quiet. Yeah, that's working. That's full. It'll pick it up. That's good. All right. Sorry. Did you get all that, Denzel?
Yeah. Do you want me to
Alright,
run
very
that?
good.
Do you want me to run that again or?
Nah.
No.
Nah, you're good, mate. All good.
All right, beautiful.
I think it's probably almost an escape for me, to be honest, running. Like, I'm so busy with everything and I just cannot, like, when I run is like my time to just chill out. And that's why I, run this is actually probably the first ever community run or like run I've done with someone, and I've been running for about 2 years. So I just do it myself, take my little time to do it, and then I get back to what I have to do. So I think like it is a good escape for me, and it's also something to have in the background that I can work towards throughout the year as well.
Yeah, when I was younger and studying, and my wife will attest to this, she's here tonight at the back somewhere, I would do anything to not study. So I would find every excuse under the sun to do something that wasn't doing what I needed to be doing. So I think to have that focus and that drive to manage your priorities is quite admirable. And, at a point when you do finish your studies and, end up with your job, whatever that might be, that will carry through to your running for sure, because you'll be able to apply yourself in a way that you can't do right now. It's awesome. Any other questions?
I've got a question.
David Perich, another star of the Bunbury Training Series.
Yeah. I've got a friend who couldn't come tonight. They're a bit shy. But they had, they're running in Melbourne, and they had an interesting block. They've had some injuries. They've had a few good races and a few good sessions, but lots of down weeks. How would you approach a race where there's a lot of uncertainty about what's possible? Anyone?
It is what it is. Look, there's no such thing as a perfect training block. Something's always going to go wrong, whether it be you get a cold for a couple of days, or you, like me, I had a sore quad and you miss a run, or your kids get sick and you got to take them to hospital and you miss a run, or someone. There's no such thing as a perfect training block. I think like going into a race with like realistic expectations of like deep down where you're at. And like sometimes there's
where my friend is at.
Where your friend is at. So your friend should know where he or she is at. And if he or she has a coach, they should have a conversation with the coach and make a realistic goal. And at the end of the day, I'm a big believer of it is what it is. You're not going to run a PB every time, but if you can get to the finish line and have had a fun experience, you're going to come back the next time. And that's what running is about at the end of the day. We're here to have a good time. PBs is just a bonus.
Raf, did you have anything to add to that?
No, I think it's inherently challenging, but I think just taking the time to write a plan. Sometimes if you look back and you've recorded heart rate accurately, heart rate is a fairly good reference point that can start to move away from pace and give you an internal load. So if pace is an external load metric, heart rate's an internal load. There'll be a very high correlation with heart rate, even if the output from that heart rate's a bit different depending on the level of fitness. So that can sometimes be helpful. For some people, I've used heart rate and just given them at the first 10K, 160, then it should ease towards 162 and then 164. And then at 35, I don't want it to be higher than 164, and then see how you go. And sometimes that reframing, as long as they've got a good reading of heart rate, sometimes with the current heart rate monitors, it's not accurate enough for that to be appropriate. Perceived effort or just experiential perspective, just like Smithy said, just see it for what it is, and how can you enjoy the experience as a platform for the next one.
I'll pass it on to them.
Matt,
yeah, I've got a question for Raf, mainly around mindset and training around that. For someone or an athlete that's coming over an injury and the confidence is low, and whether they're in a training block for a marathon or for another event, what are some of the things that you would say, or that you would guide them through to get that confidence back up from an injury?
Yeah, again, it depends on the injury, but I think if you just imagine, because running's difficult, the extent to which, if you understand the big 5 personality traits, one of them is trait neuroticism. Running, working with runners, running brings forth, there's a couple of things like public speaking, like for me, it makes me a bit anxious. Racing makes people anxious. It brings forth a part of them that's prone to anxiety and neuroticism. So first of all, identify it's normal. It's not just you. It's a human response to a difficult challenge. And that starts to create a bit of separation between your emotional response and the reality of the situation. The next thing is you need, like, say at Front Runner, we have a guy called Steve Gravina, who I've known for 20 years, who's a world-class physio, top tier. You have to have people you trust. So even for me with our athletes, I'm like, sometimes we've got good physios, but there's a lot of situations where my heart of hearts, we need to send them to another physio from outside of we've got this demand, but I don't want to compromise my personal sense of integrity by referring internally. But when we refer externally, there's the challenge of communication with the other stakeholder and getting things in a tight enough wrap that the communication between athlete, physio and coach is good. So there's always challenges in any system. So by bringing him in, though, it's better. So having a good physio and a good coach that have a good collaborative relationship, so the team around you is able to help you to navigate that anxiety and that stress better is something I would say. And then just understanding that it's never good as you hope or as bad as you fear. We tend to go through bigger oscillations than we need to. And if you just sort of try to get some logical benchmarks of progress and start to focus on those little incremental gains and focus on the day-to-day rather than thinking like, how far am I from where I want to be, but where am I at? How do I progress? You start to see little things that are like green shoots, and then those green shoots start to flourish. So just start with little steps, bring it back a bit, rein it in, set little goals with people you trust, and then build it out from there.
Great, thank you.
Any other takers at the back there? Simon, you got any questions to ask, mate? You are a host of this podcast.
I should ask some questions from time to time. So this will be my third attempt of sub 3. Maybe it's probably a question to you, Raf, but also to Kat and Smithy. For athletes who might have this goal, whether it's sub 3, sub 2:30, sub 4 hours, and perhaps they've had attempts, it's not gone their way. How do you continue to motivate them, for the next attempt if things don't go their way again?
You're a coach, Kat. You can go.
Well, I have been in that situation, so it did take me 3 attempts to break 3 hours. I think you have to have a pretty good support crew around you is probably number one for me at the time. The second time I attempted sub 3 was disastrous, and I think if I didn't have that support around me, I don't know if I'd have jumped back on the horse so quickly and jumped on and did that. But sometimes you do need to look at it objectively, as well. I'm scientific. I've got a scientific background, and I look at my training and I think, yes, this tells me that I can run a sub 3. Everything I've done here aligns to the fact that this is possible. And there's sometimes going to be things out of your control, like with your attempts as well. There have been things out of your control. And if you can control everything you can, eventually you're going to break through if your training tells you that you can. I tried to break 18 minutes for a 5K 7 times. I think I ran between 18:03 and 18:09. Eventually I did it, and then from then on I'd done it 10 times.
Yeah, I'd like to back that up. That was a really good answer. For me personally, it was like the sub 15 when I was much younger. I think I ran between 15:01 and 15:06 5 or 6 times in the space of probably 3 months before I cracked it, and then I went way under. I think I ran 14:40 the time I finally did crack it. But yeah, I'd like to reiterate your point of having like a really good sort of strong squad around you. With the guys I coach at Double, a lot of them jokingly say if I don't run sub 3 this marathon, I'm going to quit running. Yet they all keep coming back because they're running with their friends, and they become their support group. And they sort of rely on each other to get through like bad times if someone does have a bad run. For me personally, with Perth last year, same with Rams. I came back to training on the Tuesday, and everyone was really maybe not the Tuesday. No one was supportive on the Tuesday, but by the Friday, everyone was really supportive and willing me to get back on the horse and get ready for Monterey. So yeah, I think having a really strong group of people around you is probably the most important one. And just sort of reiterating to people that you should have self-belief in what you can do. I've had a lot of sort of end-of-season meetings with clients that I coach at Double in the last sort of 3 weeks in Sydney, and I've asked a question like, what have you learned about yourself in this training block? And almost everyone's response has been, I've learned that I'm capable of more. So if you can sort of convey that message to your athletes that, like, even though something might have not gone their way and they are capable of more, eventually they're going to buy into that. And then they'll end up running a 250 instead of a 3 hour. So you're going to run 250 in Melbourne or Chicago? Melbourne. Yeah. I'm backing you in.
Very good, very good.
I don't think I have to add anything to that. I think they've covered that one.
No, all good. Any final takers at the back there? I know there's a few silent faces. Maddie, any questions back there?
What's the average age of marathon retirement?
What is the average age of marathon retirement? Was the question.
You will not win the war. You may win a few more battles. My wife, if she has that set of values, you've got to make sure you have a good recovery period after each marathon and not talk about the marathon for 4 to 6 weeks. You might get another one out, but you're on very borrowed thin ice. My wife, for like every single year, like I had a point when I was like, we'd had our first child and we used to go to Europe and live in Spain every March. And I would wait to her at a dinner party with all her friends. And because she was like, what are we doing? With all her friends, because you know you're going to get the wow. So we're going to go to Europe again. And I would set it up so she's so agreeable, she couldn't say no in front of all her friends. And I used that twice. And each time, the consequences, because I'd used that to get it across the line, were becoming more and more significant. And eventually it was like, I'm either going to get divorced or I'm done. Yeah. So, yes, you won't. You win some battles, you'll lose the war.
No, that's pretty solid advice. I'm sure Maddie's very happy to hear it. Simon and I often joke about getting divorced through the consequences of running this podcast. But
I'm single for a reason.
Yeah. I think that's a really good way to wrap up the episode, guys. Raf, thanks so much for coming up here and answering everybody's questions. Really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody out here for joining us this evening. We obviously, without the listeners, Vicky, Simon, and I wouldn't be doing this. We'd probably be just talking to each other about public toilets each week. Now, again, sponsors, Raf, Sam, the Running Centre, massive, do so much for the WA running community. There's not really another running store like it here in WA. Vlad, obviously, unfortunately, he's not here, but he's on his way back from representing Australia at the World Mountain Running and Mountain and Trail Running Championships, which I don't know if you guys have been following, but did a fantastic job over there. So with Bix and Reach, and he's doing massive things to help us and help the WA community as well. Remember, if you haven't done it yet, use Warp 15 for 15% off online purchases at the Running Centre, and Warp for 20% off your purchases on the Bix online store. Now, to our athletes, Matt, Kat, Denzel and Nita, look, we're all going to be keeping an eye on you guys over the next little while, whether it be on the course, on the podium, or the WAMC private toilets. Very excited to be there. All the best for your races over the next in 2 weeks' time. Really looking forward to it, and we'll look forward to chatting with you guys post-race next time on the road to Kwinana Freeway. Thanks, guys.
Kaya, just a quick shout out to Savannah Rayner, who on Saturday I egged her on and promised that I would shout out her name if she tried to podium at the 5K event on the Pancake Run on Sunday. Happy to report that she did come third, out sprinting Tanika, coming third in 24:07 and almost coming second. So congrats, Savannah. Weapon of war for this week, and I'll catch you guys next week. Ciao. This training series is brought to you by the Running Centre. Whether you're gearing up for Sydney, City to Surf, Melbourne, or the Perth Running Festival, the Running Centre is your destination for sports nutrition and all your running gear. Use code WARP15 at checkout to score 15% off all running gear and nutrition in store or online. The Running Centre. Let's move together.